Did the Panthers make a mistake with this deal?
Yep. Look, Christian McCaffrey is all world. He's a beast. There's no question about it. And I'm not saying it's fair or right. I'm telling you what is. This is how it is. Running backs, you can justify drafting high up in the first round, even in my opinion. That's actually counter to the kind of prevailing wisdom. Don't draft them up too high. But I think you can, because they literally hit the ground running. And also, figuratively, are immediately they hit the ground running. They're just about an elite player from their rookie season if they're great backs. This is not like drafting a left tackle or a quarterback. You got to develop them. Running backs are already great as rookies. We've seen it in recent years. Ezekiel Elliott, Christian McCaffrey. By the way, Saquon Barkley. There are others. So you get value right away. And then by the time it's time to pay them, you can franchise them a couple times and then tell them, look, you know, how many years you're going to be good for? Another 2 or 3 years, we're not going to guarantee you that much money. It's a ruthless kind of business decision. It's messed up for running backs. I think they need to figure out another way to pay running backs, maybe a special kind of salary exemption for running backs, exception for running backs. But that's the fact of the matter. McCaffrey had to play this upcoming season under contract. They could then exercise another season. They could then franchise him. And after all that, they could look and say, look, you're 26, whatever he'd be at the time, years old. They got all the prime production out of him already and say, okay, you know, we'll guarantee you for 2 or 3 years. It's messed up, but that's the way it is. And don't tell me all about how he's also receiver. That's obviously true. He's all world at everything. I get it. But the issue is not that receivers get paid more simply because what they do is more valuable. The issue is they don't get as much wear and tear. But because he's running the ball, there will be wear and tear. Look at the Gurley deal. There are many other examples.
I disagree with you. I don't think there are many other examples. I think he's a very unique situation, and I think he deserves the money, and I'm happy for him. Coming out of Stanford, if you remember Ryan Clark, I was on the record saying, you know what, it's almost like reverse discrimination. If this dude was black as a running back, he would have gotten even more praise than he was getting coming out of Stanford. This dude was that sensational, and then he comes into the National Football League. He's not the best running back in the league. We know that to be Saquon Barkley, but the bottom line is, all-purpose back with what he brings to the table, 1,000 rushing yards, 1,000 receiving yards. I mean, look at that for a second there, right there. 100 receptions, 1,000 receiving yards, 100 receptions. You look at what he brings to the table in terms of his all-purpose yards, 2,392 yards from scrimmage, 19 touchdowns, 403 touches. This dude's absolutely spectacular, and he's been the face, as far as I'm concerned, of the Carolina Panthers franchise for the last season and a half. He's really elevated his stock. Not to mention the fact, again, he's not just a running back. He's a football player. He's an all-purpose back. And, oh, by the way, he's only 23. He ain't 26 or 27. He's not approaching 30, which is the death knell for quarterbacks. He's only 23 years of age, good-looking kid, balls, and, oh, by the way, high-character dude as well. If you take all those things into consideration, if you're a player out there that wants to recognize, oh, why is this guy being taken care of to this fashion? It's because, A, he's all-purpose, not just one-dimensional. B, he's the face of the franchise now that Cam is gone. C, he's only 23 years of age. And 4, he has proven he's trustworthy because he puts in the work and the production and represents the franchise. All of those things come into the equation. I don't think this will last long because I think Saquon Barkley is doing the same thing for the New York Giants, or pretty close. We shall see. But right now, here today, Christian McCaffrey deserves what he got, period.
No, I agree with Stephen A. He deserves the money, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to win championships. So it's all about how you see this. Do you see, okay, we're paying for the production and we're paying for the projected production we will get into the future? If you remember, when Kyle Allen took over for Cam Newton, we started to discuss whether or not Kyle Allen was the quarterback of the future for the Carolina Panthers. But it wasn't about Kyle Allen. All he was doing was not throwing interception. Christian Christian McCaffrey was leading this team both in the pass game and the rush game. And so going forward, he is going to be the face of this franchise. It's not going to be Teddy Bridgewater. When you walked into the stadium to watch the Carolina Panthers play, there were a lot of number 1 jerseys because Cam Newton was the face and the person that everybody came to see. That's now moved over to Christian McCaffrey. And yesterday, I was texting back and forth with Joe Brady, and he said, you know what? We have to make sure to protect this guy, get him more involved in the pass game, but he is going to get his touches. He is a special player, and I feel the exact same way about him. Now, we're going to look around the league and look at what some of these other running backs have done with the big contracts or how their teams have done, and we're going to say that you can't win championships like this. Well, that's on Matt Rule and the Carolina Panthers to build pieces around Christian McCaffrey because he can be the piece or the chess piece that you start a championship team with. Now it's about making sure you're efficient everywhere else.
Well, that's fine, but they could have, listen, first of all, let's talk about deserves it. Of course McCaffrey deserves it. He deserves more. If there was no salary cap, he'd get more. But there is a cap. It's a hard cap league. So as Clint Eastwood said in Unforgiven, deserves got nothing to do with it. He's already given you the production you're referring to. He will give you that additional production this upcoming season, Stephen A. He's under contract. They then can exercise another season, still under contract. They then can franchise him. Now, if at any time he decides to sit out, then you have to deal with that. And maybe you cross that bridge when you come to it and say, okay, now we have to pay him X number of dollars. But this was premature on their part. He's going to produce. He's produced for you. He's going to produce for you for several more years before you have to. It's like risk assessment. Before you have to risk that money long term. You just didn't have to do it.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.